It is Luke Skywalker Friday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. This evening, let's play with the latest iteration of Easy Meditation. Please chant with me. Whatever comes, may all beings let it come. Whatever stays, may all beings let it stay. Whatever goes, may all beings let it go. Welcome to the first quarter of Mindful Crease Counting Meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let me check the time real quick. Okay, multiply this by 8 sets, and you've got 96 inhalations. We could count those 8 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. To keep track of this, our first quarter, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the bladder region of our lower abdomen. And yes, this could feel a trifle overwhelming. Take solace in the fact that repetition is the mother of skill, and that by simply attending one live stream every 12 hours or so, within a week or two, you could master the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Come, let us begin by demystifying enlightenment. It is said the Buddha, whether he was real or merely archetypical, is said to have had a foolish cousin. And that foolish cousin, known as Devadatta, took great pride in being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, and this is what that suckiness looks like. The Buddha delighted in the path of being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Now, our friends who are rigid, our friends who are elitist, make of enlightenment some great Tolkien quest, requiring a span of time equal to the construction, maintenance, and destruction of 3 universes. But that is not what the Buddha taught. In fact, in the penultimate passage of the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha promised that enlightenment could be mastered in about a week or 2. Or perhaps as little as a week or 2 would be more accurate. So how would that work out? Well, first we got to figure out what enlightenment is. And what if enlightenment was nothing more than mastery of the Buddha's Eightfold Path? But what do we mean by mastery? No infant is born knowing how to use the toilet, knowing how to brush their teeth, knowing how to tie their shoes, or knowing how to ride a bicycle. And yet, by the time a child enters first grade, typically they can do all those 4 things so well. They perform them spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. Due to neuroplasticity, we too can so master the Buddha's Eightfold Path. But there is a shortcut. If we mainly play with the 7th fold's mindfulness and the 8th fold's meditation, the remaining 6 folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path could take care of themselves. Let us therefore view mindfulness and meditation through the lens of neuroscience after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Let us begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to effortlessly access the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like. In addition to that, also notice mind's antics of emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Now that seems like a whole bunch of things to do simultaneously, perhaps even overwhelming. Is there a hack? Yes. Yes, there is. When we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we gently nudge our cerebral cortex in the direction of cooperating with our sympathetic nervous system. And now, let us return to concise explanations. What shall we do with all that which we notice? Simple. We practice meditation. And how do we do that? When we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we are able to physically relax and mentally release to the point that what we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less tantalizing, less permanent, and less defining. Let's consider a moment this whole business with permanence. Simply by playing with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so, we experience the deep familiarization with the literal impermanence that supports letting go, known as the Buddha, the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Therefore, together as a team, let us practice mindfulness and meditation right now. And allow me to remind you that the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, please do not hesitate, but immediately type your question in great detail in the chat window. Let's dig in. Welcome to the second quarter of mindful crease counting meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets, and you've got 96 inhalations. We could count those 8 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. In an effort to keep track of this, our second quarter, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the navel region of our mid-abdomen. Let us take a moment to explore the neuroscience of meditation after a quick review of mindfulness. Every time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we are wired to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. And this is what the big kids call mindfulness. And now, let's explore the neuroscience of meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to effortlessly access our parasympathetic nervous system, which is divided between the lower third and the upper third of our spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. To the point that what we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, any good English teacher worth their salt will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So we have to ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, could be non-graspable to the hand. And so there you have it. There is no need for blind faith. There is no need for pseudo-intellectual mental gymnastics. For emptiness is merely a figure of speech. Or I should say, it only makes sense as a figure of speech. When we explore it literally, then the wheels come off. And so, the great irony is that by simply playing with mindfulness and meditation, we experience a deep familiarization with the figurative emptiness that supports our mental release, known as the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. And so, right now, together as a team, let us practice. Welcome to the third quarter of mindful crease counting meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets, and you've got to 96 inhalations. We could count those 8 sets upon our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. We could keep track of our third quarter of this evening's practice by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so, could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the heart region of our chest. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks. Since the Neolithic Revolution, most societies have been conditioning most people to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And this reflects in their spirituality. When these people practice meditation or teach others meditation, they implore their students to actively focus, relying upon their such structures as their medial prefrontal cortex, and to actively analyze, relying upon structures such as their dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. The common denominator between those two terms was prefrontal cortex, and when we overwork our prefrontal cortex, we trigger our amygdala, which is the seat of anxiety and aggression. Not only do we intensify those impulses, but we increase the dominance that they exert over our choices and our utterances and our deeds, which is a real bummer. But now for some good news. Let's take a moment. Before we discuss 2 benefits of mindfulness and meditation, let us briefly review how the process works. When we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, our sympathetic nervous system helps us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. And this is called mindfulness. When we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable FREEBIES during our exhalation, our parasympathetic nervous system helps us to so physically relax and mentally release that what we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less tantalizing, less permanent, and less defining. Now, here's the good news. When we play with mindfulness and meditation as little as once every 12 hours, we calm. Number 1, we calm the intensity of our anxiety and aggression. Number 2, we calm the tyranny that our anxiety and aggression exert over our choices and our utterances and our deeds. Number 3, we stimulate the anterior cingulate gyrus, this thing that kind of looks like the letter C right here. This anterior cingulate gyrus functions as the seat of our mirror neurons. As the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, the root of love and compassion. This is exactly why luminaries such as the late Tulku Thondup insisted that the highest love is not the contrived product of mindfulness of focus and analysis, but rather the effortless byproduct of simply noticing and releasing. How important is this? So loving kindness is so important that it constitutes 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Kind intention, kind communication, kind conduct, and commerce that is as cooperative as it is kind. And the good news is, this is the essence of Buddhist morality. This is the essence of mental morality, interpersonal morality, physical morality, and circumstantial morality. Morality as defined by the 4 bases of mindfulness. Good old Einstein is said to have quipped that any educated idiot can make things more complicated, more difficult, and more violent. However, it takes a lot of courage and a little bit of genius to move in the opposite direction. Here it is inferred. Well, actually not inferred. It was actually taught by the late Karma Jigme. The one need not overwhelm oneself with literally hundreds of vows. For most certainly, loving kindness is the essence of all morality. In light of this, together as a team, let us practice mindfulness and meditation right now. And yes, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, or Buddhist philosophy, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. I check for questions approximately once every 10 minutes or so. Welcome to the fourth and final quarter of this evening's mindful crease counting meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply this by 8 sets and you've got 96 inhalations. We could count those 8 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 12 inhalations each. To keep track of this, our fourth quarter, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger, upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce at the crown region of our head. So let's take a moment to concisely review mindfulness and meditation. When we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, our sympathetic nervous system helps us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. This is called mindfulness. When we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, our parasympathetic nervous system can help us to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that what we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less tangible, less permanent, and less defining. Now, let's explore this whole bit about duality. Superficially, there's, of all the things we notice, some we desire and some we dread. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We evolved to dread scarcity and injury and scorn and anonymity. We evolved to desire plenty and pleasure and praise and fame. And to a certain degree, this has really helped with our survival as a species. Arguably, we've been a successful species, biologically speaking. The problem is not the presence of desire and dread. The problem is the tyranny that desire and dread can exert over our choices and our utterances and our deeds. When desire and dread cease being merely one of many tools in the tool shed of our underbrain and instead become the tyrants of our central nervous system, then our life goes out of kilter. On a deeper level, not only could we notice desire and dread, but we can notice a subtle resistance to the absence of the object of desire, or even the potential absence of an object of desire. We could also notice a resistance not only to the presence of an object of dread, but to the potential presence of an object of dread. But this is where mindfulness and meditation come in. Without scolding ourselves, without repressing what's going on, without trying to indulge our controlling tendencies, we can notice the clown car that is our mind and its desires and its resistances. And we can perform the ultimate act of subversion in the height of the fervor of our resistance to the present moment we can physically relax and mentally release. Now, this could sound scary. This could sound like we're being asked to be a great celestial doormat so life can drag its poopy boots all over our face, which I wouldn't recommend. But here's the good news. By simply practicing, by playing with mindfulness and meditation every 12 hours or so, we can notice that our choices and our utterances and our deeds begin to flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, which should not be confused with the scattered spontaneity we could experience after our fourth consecutive espresso, but rather this is the centered spontaneity that flows from mindfulness and meditation. This is the sixth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. And so just as I mentioned at the beginning of this evening's live stream, simply by playing with the seventh fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path and the eighth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, the remaining sixth folds take care of themselves spontaneously. Together as a team, let us play with mindfulness and meditation right now. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, a Buddhist meditation, a Buddhist philosophy, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Let's dig in. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours or so, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.